Yo, what up? It's Russ, and today I want to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Assassin's Creed Shadows is the latest installment in the long-running Assassin's Creed franchise from Ubisoft, but this time, it finally goes to Japan. About fucking time! Fans have been asking for this since like the second game in the series, if not the third one, but it's been a while. And why did it take so long? Maybe they saw the success of things like Ghost and were just like kicking themselves that they weren't the first to the punch. Maybe ideas that they wanted to do couldn't be implemented in the way they thought of because of technology. Or maybe they just really needed a game to do well. And why not cash in on what everybody has been wanting for the longest time now? Money is pretty persuasive. As for my experience with the franchise, I've played a good number of the mainline games. Although I wouldn't consider myself an avid fan of the series, it really just comes down to the setting of the game on whether I choose to dive into it or not. So Assassin's Creed in Japan? Yeah, are you kidding me? I played through it like 70-ish hours of it in total. But from that experience, I have some things I want to talk about, and I hope you'll join me for the discussion. So without further ado, let's get into Assassin's Creed Shadows. Of course, as mentioned before, the setting for this game is in Japan, more specifically during the 16th century, a time of great social conflict and civil war in the country. We are quickly introduced to the first of our two protagonists, but in a first for this series, you're actually in the shoes of a real historical figure, Yasuke.
Black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all. I'm blickety black, blacker than black, black, I'm blacker than black, yo, because I'm black and I'm back. Oh!
If you're into Japanese media, there's a high chance you've heard of that name before and likely seen one, if not more, interpretations of him. As for his IRL background, I'm gonna leave that one for the Japanese historians. You can argue about it in the comments if you want to. I really don't give a f. We're here to just focus on his character in the game and whether or not it's good. Quick answer, yes, it is good.
Approved.
And after invading and dunking on a whole village, we then jump into the shoes of Naoe Fujibayashi.
What?
Fujibayashi. I'm gonna f that up so much. A shinobi in training, at least for 5 minutes, cause she gets that hidden blade real quick. She is then tasked with guarding a secret box, which she utterly fails at. Skipping ahead a bit, she does manage to get her lick back, only to find out that she's been f***ing with the wrong crew and ends up getting jumped. And in the process, loses her father, is left gravely injured, and vows revenge. And that's our setup. Partially. After spending, quite frankly, a large amount of time as Naoe, getting her backstory and things of the like, we finally reach the point where our two protagonists cross paths in a pretty emotional scene, minus, one person who might have skipped a voice acting class or two.
Then you're a monster too!
The story presented here is a classic revenge tale, similar to what we've seen in Assassin's Creed before. And while it doesn't pull off anything crazy in terms of narrative, it does serve as a decent motivator as you go through the game, hunting down those who wronged you and taking back what's yours. Now, there are a few different ways to experience this story. Of course, there's a good chance you'll experience it in your native language, whatever that might be, but there's also immersive mode, where the game will lock character dialogue to their native voice language or the tongue they decide to speak in a certain scene. And honestly, as an English speaker, clearly, it's a mode I recommend. Compared to the English dub specifically, I find the native voice cast to just fit better overall. Naoe being the shining example of this here.
You fought against Oda Nobunaga longer than anyone. We need your help.
手伝ってやってくれ。それかそばにおるだけでもいい。援助をなくした者同士じゃ。
Yasuke, on the other hand,
襲った時、それがしは侍であった。命に従ったまで。
I no longer serve the Oda clan. I work with a small group to bring peace.
I feel is done very well in English, to the point where I'd much rather prefer that VA in comparison. But this hit or miss sentiment spreads throughout much of the game with all the characters you meet, and ultimately depends on who your favorites are and how you want to just digest their dialogue. whenever someone can actually finish a sentence.
He wishes to show his mastery on
Some
and
call
off
him
the
a
field
tyrant.
of battle.
Shut up, bitch!
And to the subject of dialogue, dialogue choices are presented in this game, allowing you to carve out your own progression through the narrative to a degree. Or not. You could just not do that because there's a canon mode, basically eliminating all the dialogue choices and allowing the story to play out how it's meant to. I partially question why the choice is given, but at the same time, I do appreciate the effort to streamline the story. However, if you do decide to play the game normally with the dialogue options, a lot of the time they can be very one note, like, are you a righteous, understanding person, or are you just an ass? A lot of them don't really seem to matter in the grand scheme of things, as similar things will play out no matter what you choose and you reach the same end goal anyway. Other times though, they will matter, as it can dictate whether or not someone trusts you enough to aid you or how much suspicion is raised concerning your presence. Choices are sometimes presented in a way where it tries to give the facade of aligning with a single character or not, and to a degree it matters when it comes to the characters you're talking to, but it bears no consequence to the relationship between our heroes. They may disagree for a scene or two, but then they move on like normal. However, with that being the case, I do think the characters are a highlight of this narrative. Yasuke and Naoe especially. They are extremely likable and you do buy their relationship. Maybe not how it starts, because that does happen kind of fast given the circumstances of it, but as you see them work more and more together, riff on each other and share wholesome moments, you do begin to buy their growth as a team, and they do start to feel like true friends.
You are half this man's height, but you stand there like his equal. Like you could open his throat before he blinked.
I could.
She could.
Yasuke in particular, I think, is a standout here though, as the storylines involving him are more endearing and he probably has the most character out of anybody in this game. He may be a fish out of water per se, and they do kind of play on that a bit with things like him not knowing how to play an instrument.
Damn, nigga.
Or how how ungraceful his leap of faith is.
Any lending you can walk away from is good enough.
You're right. It's fact.
But despite all that, he's not an idiot. And you can clock that right from his introduction. He's really made out to be like a father figure or like a cool uncle to the group around him. But at the same time, one, he ain't for the bullshit. And two,
Hey, I'll get it in.
I believe you wish to learn something of me?
My hope is that we will spend some time together.
Do you find cats interesting, Yasuke?
Cats are cats. But you are interesting to me.
How would you live your last night?
I would spend it with you.
Oh, Yasuke. Yes.
No one is truly worthy of you. Not anyone I know.
I know of one.
Time is a veil. Tomorrow is an illusion.
And all we have left is here and now.
My nigga.
in general though, I can't really think of any major character that I absolutely didn't like. Of course, some may get a bit more shine than others, but I don't feel as though anyone was really done dirty. They all have unique personalities and compelling stories. I think the one thing is I just wish that the relationship options when dealing with some of these people was more than let's or off. Side note, yo, whoever made some of these romance scenes is a certified freak. And all your coworkers know it now.
You sick freak!
Now, with all that being said, I do find the pacing and overall structure of the story to sort of be a detriment to the storytelling. There are plenty of times where the main story will send you off on side stories, and it feels like it starts to lose the plot a little bit, because by the time you get back to the main focus of smoking your ops, you're kind of forgotten what the purpose of all this extra shit was. And to add further complication or distraction, however you want to see it, there are several branching stories here. The main plot, Naoe's character story, and Yasuke's as well. There are several others too, but these are the ones that are really relevant. And AC isn't new to multiple storylines, but this time it doesn't feel as coherent. At least not until the very end. And even then, it feels like Yasuke's is the only one that has some closure to it and ties into the Assassin-Templar struggle more as a whole. Which is crazy because he's not the assassin. And then not to mention the modern day storyline. The non-existent one. The Animus? The f is that? Yeah, that is all but dead at this point, at least in terms of being integrated into the main story. I recall like 1 or 2 missions that had anything to do with that stuff. And it was just walking. That's it. But as far as what's in the base game, it can definitely be a fun ride. And seeing how these characters interact with each other is by far the best aspect of it, as there are a ton of charming moments, not even in cutscenes, but in random happenstance as you're gallivanting. However, to that same point, it's certainly a more focused story than what came recently before it, because if you're looking for extensive ties to the wider AC universe, you're probably going to be disappointed, as it's not put to the forefront here, or really any front. Now, this story here is about Yasuke, Naoe, and the people of this country.
Perhaps better depends on who is playing.
Now, when it comes to the gameplay of Shadows, I hesitate to go into that much detail because the game is being updated constantly. So keep that in mind as I say what I'm about to say, but I feel like most of what I have to say still stands. AC Shadows follows a trend that was set by its most recent predecessors, that being an open world action stealth RPG with heavy emphasis on the RPG. Now, you either like it or you hate it, but whatever side of the debate you're on, it's obviously proven somewhat successful in the sales department. Now, as mentioned before, there are 2 protagonists that you take control of, each with their own playstyle, gear, and upgrades. Sort of like another game in the series that rhymes with intricate that is really overhated and you should definitely go play. I don't know, give it a look. Naoe is the game's namesake. She plays pretty much how all assassins have played in this era of games. She can climb and parkour with ease, sneak around, and of course silently take out targets with ease. We're just gonna add a tiny asterisk to that last part. Needless to say, she's a stealth option, and she has access to several tools to aid her in this, including bells, kunai knives, and even each of her main weapon types plays a part in her assassination moveset, like the Tanto allowing for double assassinations, or the Katana allowing you to kill through doors. Her biggest asset though is the shadows, hence the name of the game. Lighting plays a huge part in how you navigate the environment, as sticking to the darkness will significantly decrease the odds of you being detected, thus making the time of day in which you tackle things that much more impactful. Trying to do the ninja dance in the middle of the day kind of plays out how Assassin's Creed normally has before this. You know, sticking to rooftops, bushes, and shrubbery to stay out of sight. But at night, the mechanic allows for a bit more freedom of movement, as you could get away with standing out in the open if there's no light shining on you. And this really helps with navigating interiors, giving you a bit more leeway as opposed to just sitting behind walls or pre-designated hiding spots. Now, despite being a shinobi, she's not the best at straight up fighting. Naruto, this is not. She did not enroll in the Tsunade training camp, but just because she's not good at fighting doesn't mean she can't. Naoe focuses more on her speed to maneuver around enemies and tag them whenever she can. However, depending on the enemy types, doing anything more than a 1v1, 1v2, maybe even a 1v3 is not really advised. Her health pool is small. Her defenses more or less suck in the grand scheme of things. And her strength leaves a bit to be desired. Now, I mean, you can go forth and take on an army as her, you know, if you want the challenge. But really, if you're the type that prefers to go in guns blazing, well, that's what Yasuke is for.
Here we come, boy. Real, shoot the kill, better run, boy. Or you can tell me how I feel.
Everything I just mentioned with Naoe, yeah, Yasuke can't do none of that shit. At least not well. But what he does do is grant you the power of brute strength and recklessness. Zero patience, zero strategy, all smoke. Pick your weapon of choice, you have several, and start slicing, bashing, kicking, and shooting. He's quite literally a human tank, and that's it. Just as long as you don't fight anybody higher level than you. Now, speaking on the combat as it pertains to both characters, it kind of reminds me of old AC just a bit. There's much more emphasis on properly countering enemies in order to attack them, as opposed to just running up and swinging all crazy on them. That only works to an extent, as eventually they will block or just get out the way. As in previous games, you do have the ability to switch between equipped weapons to adapt to the situation, and each character has a few accessible skills to even the playing field. A lot of Naoe's abilities double down on her nimbleness, like rushing in for quick strikes or vaulting over an off-balance foe, while Yasuke's obviously focus more on his strength and skill as a sword/marksman. The combat in the game, I'd say, is serviceable. It's nothing necessarily game-changing. It's not very complex at all, and the only real challenge just comes from not up the extremely telegraphed moves, mainly from bosses, which I'd argue some don't feel as epic as they should given the circumstances around them. Then too, maybe that could be the point. But back to the point, you do have to be engaged, you do have to be aware, and you do have to pay attention. Overall, it just works. Another unique aspect to this game is the ability to summon allies. There are several specific characters that you may come across throughout your journey, and you'll have the opportunity to recruit them if you say the right things. Basically, do your best not to incriminate them. These individuals can then be leveled up and brought into battle, each with their own abilities that they bring to the table. Now, honestly, I forgot these guys were even a thing. I never used them outside of the 1 or 2 times because I was like, oh shit, I forgot I can do that. And wanted to see how they work. I don't know. Personally, in an Assassin's Creed game and how I like to play, outside of the fights that it just makes you do, I feel like the point is to not get caught in a fight at all. I don't know. Like, am I the only one that thinks like that? And then in this game specifically, Yasuke can pretty much handle everybody by himself. So what's pushing me to actually use the allies in the first place? I'm a one-man army, or I'm trying not to fight in the first place. But again, maybe that's just me. What do I know? I'm just a guy on the internet talking about virtual characters and how it makes them feel. So now, of course, a big factor in how you engage with the opposition is your gear. Each character clearly having their own specific sets. Now, I already mentioned a few of the weapons, but in addition, there's headgear, armor, charms, and mounts, which I didn't even know you could buy till like 20 hours into the game. Every piece of gear you acquire carries with a different stat boost and perks, and most likely you're gonna wear what gives you the best overall bonuses, therefore sacrificing the look of the whole ensemble, and therefore scaring the away. And we just can't have that now, can we? Luckily, any piece of gear can be made to look like another, while still keeping its unique stats, along with toggling the headgear on and off. And that's really nice because there are several sets in this game that look really, really cool. The assassin's robes, all the shinobi garments, and all the casual wear. Well, not all the casual, but a lot of the casual wear for Yasuke as opposed to his samurai armor. I don't know. Personally, I find it funny how you could just perform open heart surgery in casual street clothes. Furthermore, your characters do level up after gaining enough experience, which scared the hell out of me more times than I care to admit, honestly. In addition to gaining increased stats, mastery points are also awarded, and these points can be spent in each of the character's multiple skill trees. And it is here where you'll build out how you want to play these characters by focusing on movesets for certain weapons and overall skill sets. The nice thing here is that everything gained is duplicated, so you never have to worry about prioritizing one character over the other too much. When mastery points are acquired, both characters get them. When experience is gained, it's gained for both characters. And speaking of gaining experience, in typical Ubisoft fashion, this game is filled to the brim with stuff to do. And a large portion of it comes from this objective board. Akin to some of the games before, this is where your main sense of progression lies. As you explore, different people you come across will give you tasks ranging from collect this many items, do this a certain amount of times, or the most common,
Kill that motherfucker, kill all our friends!
Every region you go to will have a branch with people that have things for you to do. And furthermore, there are multiple different factions that will appear that need to be taken care of as well. Again, these are most commonly given out by quest givers, but they can also be stumbled upon. Who the and why the And there are a bunch of them. Oh my god, another one? When does it stop? Now, notice how I said taken care of. That's because there are multiple times where you're actually able to show some restraint. You don't have to kill everybody. You psychopath. You can sometimes talk and it just may lead to another interaction later down the road.
Ichihime was not a cruel killer like her older siblings. She just wanted to escape with Goro. I have killed someone who wished only for a better life. Forgive me, Ichihime.
Am I a terrible person now? But even if you do have to put the blade to them, it may not be the best to do it right away. But yeah, no, most of the time you're gonna just be piercing guts and slashing throats. Now, there is other stuff to do besides be the Reaper of Souls. The next thing of note probably being the homestead. It's back in this game, and it's pretty expansive. This is your home base that you can build up and customize over the course of the game with different spaces and aesthetics from resources that you collect out in the world. And you have quite a bit of freedom on how you build this settlement, allowing you to put that architecture degree to good use. However, it's not all just for show. What you construct may grant access to different mechanics such as ally training or the weapon forge, which I never used. And these also give passive bonuses like increased healing or experience and can be leveled up as well to further increase these bonuses, which you're going to need as you head out into the world. And speaking of the world, this map is big. Still, it's been said to be downsized and more comparable to the map in Origins. That one's still big as hell too. I don't know what to say. But considering what came right before this game, I'm grateful because a dude really ain't got time. Making this video is already taking forever. In addition to the objective board, there are several menial tasks scattered about as well, designated by all the icons scattered all over the map like you're kind of accustomed to seeing in games like this. Of course, you have the synchronized points. It's not a Ubisoft game without those. Although they trigger automatically now, so nice quality of life thing there. Each character has specific trials they can complete, ranging from platforming challenges, meditation, and DDR stance training. There are shrines to pray at, crypts to plunder, nature to draw, cats to pet, and shoot, apparently.
Come here, you stupid cat. Or my god will shoot you with his teppo.
Merchants to save, people to talk to.
I am sorry, I don't have time for you.
As certain characters sometimes, and lots and lots and lots of bases to infiltrate. And I'm sure I'm still missing stuff, but you get the point. There's rarely a situation where you have absolutely nothing to do. And with all that being said, going through the game, I found myself sticking to Naoe more often than not. Tackling all the tasks that get thrown at you is just a smoother time with her, based on the fact that she has a complete moveset of a character. She gives you the option of stealth or full frontal combat. Her eagle vision has way better perception. And the most critical thing, her traversal is far superior. She runs faster, jumps farther, and climbs basically anything with a handhold, and has a grappling hook on top of all that, allowing you to just get to where you need to go without too much hassle. Yasuke, on the other hand, is just so much more cumbersome in comparison, and it is just such a task in itself to do anything as him. Like, my dog can't even walk across a tightrope. What the hell? With this being an open world game, of course, you are free to go anywhere and tackle anything. However, a major hindrance to that is the level gating that this game presents in every aspect of its design. It's an RPG. I get it. It's a way to manage player progression. And I'm not completely against that. But there are some things where I'm just like, are we doing a bit too much here? The level gating of the equipment is the main thing I'm referring to here, as there are several occasions where I got a cool weapon or piece of armor just to be told I'm not a high enough level to use it. But the way I look at it is, if I go through the trouble of beating a high level enemy or clearing a high level area and my reward is a souped up piece of gear, I don't know, part of me feels like I should be able to use it instead of having to gain 3 levels. And to the point of high level enemies, we're again doing the thing of not being able to assassinate targets that have a line of tic tacs for a health bar. I just snuck around this whole fortress undetected to find this guy the hard way because you don't have eyes in the sky anymore. You literally got to play hide and seek, which, you know, is more realistic, not knocking that. It just takes longer, significantly longer. But I literally did all of that just to still have to get in a fight with the guy and alert everybody anyway. And this is why I said silently take out targets with an asterisk in the beginning, because unless you have your hidden blade skill and tools maxed out and the gear with assassination bonuses engraved in it, you'll notice that you can't one-shot a lot of these guys. So you're either fighting, chucking knives at them, or doing the stab and run away dance.
Oh, we'll build it, Takahashi's sword!
Lastly, I'd like to mention the online shop. Yes, it's here. Of course it's here. But in my experience, when it comes to the game itself, I didn't feel like it was compromised in any significant way to make room for any sort of microtransactions. I never had the thought of spending any money to improve my gameplay experience, aside from wanting maybe a cool skin or mount I saw. That being said though, the pricing scheme on purchasing this stuff is absolutely atrocious. It's nothing we haven't gotten accustomed to. Actually, accustomed to isn't the right word. It's nothing we haven't seen before, sadly. But still, not allowing players to buy the thing at its listed price or buy the necessary currency remaining, but instead having to buy predetermined currency packs with weird amounts that never give you what you actually need, is one of the most disgusting practices in gaming ever. It was ridiculous when it started happening. It's ridiculous now, and will forever be ridiculous. And something needs to change. Assassin's Creed has always done an amazing job of realizing the setting it's taking place in, and Shadows is no different. Of course, everything is not perfect, but let's start by being positive. The game is freaking gorgeous, especially if you have the capability of running it at full graphic settings. All the details, all the shadows, all the ray tracing, everything looks absolutely astounding. It's not as hyper stylized as you typically see this setting, but that's not to say that it doesn't have style, because it definitely does. What I really mean is just how everything isn't oversaturated to the point where you're on an acid trip, and the wind isn't exaggerated to the point where it's blowing everything over to a 45-degree angle. Although it still blows a lot, with leaves everywhere. No, here it feels like they went for more realism as opposed to being cinematic, at least for a majority of the gameplay. Considering how big the map is, it has an incredible amount of detail put into it. At least when the textures get back from their lunch break.
Thanks for finally clocking in.
While not covering a gigantic, unrealistic spectrum, there is a fair amount of diversity in the environments created here, showcasing the farmlands of Iga, the mountainous views of Yamato, and the war-torn lands of Harima, where everyone wants to kill you for existing. Each region you visit in the game manages to stamp its own distinctiveness, and it's easy to tell when you're moving from one area to the next, you know, aside from the giant text in the middle of the screen. But another thing of great note is the weather system. Now, I know I mentioned the wind earlier and how tame it can kind of seem compared to other representations of this setting, but here it's still my favorite thing, and just how everything reacts to it. The grass, the trees, the characters' clothing, or their hair, which looks unreasonably good, by the way. The attention to detail is incredible. NPCs will cover their faces in the rain. The aftermath of the storms is clearly visible as land isn't dried right away. There are mud puddles everywhere. You can see the raindrops falling off of the rooftops. And with the amount of cutscenes I had with it storming in the background, it's nice to see that the character's hair gets wet and that the water streams down the crevices of their face. Like, that's some real HD shit. New to this game as well is the cycling of the seasons as you play, and that brings with it its own aesthetic changes to the world, as well as some variants in the gameplay. Spring, summer, fall, and winter are all represented here, with winter bringing with it probably the most changes across the board. Apart from snow visually being everywhere, it does present the most obstacles when it comes to traversing, as thick snow will slow you down and lakes and rivers may be frozen over, which I definitely didn't account for on several occasions. I didn't realize it was frozen. Ah! Her knees are better than mine. What's really admirable is that because of the choice to implement this weather system and the type of game that this is, Every cutscene and mission needed to be able to run in every season, and for the most part they do. Minus those that forcibly change the scenery or the one group of missions I encountered that just had to be done in the winter, everything renders and plays out regardless of the season. I don't know, I found that to be a pretty nice achievement, so shout out to the developers on that front. However, despite things looking good, how they animate is a totally different story. Stiff is a word that is probably going to be synonymous with this game, because holy shit, how did we get here? In Shadows, everybody moves like they're a puppet on strings during a lot of these cutscenes, and it can be really off-putting and downright hilarious sometimes. Which is in complete contrast to the smoothness of the gameplay, where the animation is extremely well done there. I don't know if a game has ever made me feel more like a ninja with weight like Shadows has, just from seeing Naue parkour, scale structures, and flip around enemies so effortlessly. Yasuke, again, not so much, but to that point, the animation plays off the fact that he's big, slow, and not as graceful as it should be. And then add to that the models themselves looking superb in terms of details, minus some clipping here and there, but they look good. Then you look back at the cinematic animation and it becomes one of the many things that just breaks your whole immersion and reminds you of like, all right, I'm playing a video game. And to the topic of breaking immersion, oh boy, the glitches, man. Now, for most of my playthrough, the game ran fairly decently. I only recall the game hard crashing like one time, but I think that had more to do with my recording session at the time. And then on 2 occasions, the frame rate broke where I could only get to like 20 FPS, and I had to do a complete shutdown of the client and restart. Frustrating in the moment, yes, but nothing game breaking. However, the issues did not stop there. To quickly blaze through them all,
I play Monster Reborn! It can revive any monster you sent to the graveyard!
After I was banished, I spent years wandering. It's strange to be in one place.
Do you miss it? Life on the road?
Oh, yes. Sometimes it feels as if my feet itch.
I bet Tomiko could make you a salve for that.
Very funny.
Do you want to know what happened to your daughter at Mount Hiei? She is just as stubborn as grows up. Never mind. What's the plan?
I spotted some gunpowder barrels in the castle.
now those were just one-offs, but in addition, there were some that were reoccurring the whole time. Like the lighting would break often. I kept having this little graphical glitch flash on my screen at random moments the entire playthrough, no matter cutscene or gameplay, and couldn't figure out how to get rid of it on my end. And then for some reason, the sheath on the Tanto knife and the katana would just take a vacation. The most notable thing I would say, however, would have to be the loading. I mentioned it a bit with the texture pop in, but even beyond that, quite regularly, I'd walk up to an NPC or interactable object and press the interact button, and then proceed to sit there for what felt like an eternity. Or I'd defeat a boss, and then proceed to sit there for what felt like an eternity. Almost to the point where you felt like the game just broke. And it's a real unsettling feeling to think that all the time you spent is about to be wasted because the person you're trying to turn the quest into is just leaving you on red, or the game just can't figure out what it's supposed to do next. But even with that being the case, that fear never did come to fruition. The game never broke in those situations. It just took a long time to sort itself out. But again, this whole experience was on PC, and as always, everybody's PC is different, so my experience may be better or worse than yours, depending on your system, and they're constantly patching the game as we speak. So who knows, all these problems could be ironed out by the time you play it. But I am confident in saying that the game does run well enough to have fun, and it looks really good when it does. The music and overall audio design is another thing that I think is very well done in this game. When it works, as is the common thread with my experience in this game, the music cutting out during combat was a constant problem from the outset. Which is a shame because I quite like the tracks that play during fights, especially the hip hop infused ones. Am I biased on that front? I mean, yeah, probably a bit. But even aside from that, the rest of the musical composition at work here fits naturally when it's incorporated, while at the same time, isn't afraid to be silent and let the natural sounds of the world breathe. You know when they're supposed to? And he did not give a damn. Ow. Did the music just stop again? So, should you take a leap of faith into Assassin's Creed Shadows? Well, to give a short blanket answer, yes, I do believe it's worth your time. Like I said at the start of this video, setting is a big deciding factor on whether I play these games or not personally. And while it has taken a minute, we finally got Assassin's Creed in Japan like many of us familiar with the franchise have been asking for. And for all intents and purposes, I feel like they did it justice. If you are a fan, this game will fit right into what you know. But if you've been hesitant or downright dismissive about this generation of RPG Assassin's Creed, you know, Odyssey, Valhalla, and whatnot, this one does very little differently as it still fits into that overall template. It's a large open world RPG with a lot of grindy, checklisty tasks scattered across the map. And that just may not be your thing, or you may need to be in a specific state of mind to go through it. On the flip side though, if you've been curious about what Assassin's Creed has been doing at this time, this is one I'd recommend jumping into. The characters and their interactions between themselves and the world around them I find to be quite lovable. The stealth gameplay I think is some of the best the series has ever had, but at the same time gives you the option to just run through everything if you so choose, and makes you feel strong in doing so. Of course, you will definitely get your money's worth in terms of time if you see it through, and because of the live nature of it, the game will have content added to it, possibly for years to come, way beyond the scope of this review. I find this game to be good as something where you can just kind of turn your brain off and just occupy yourself in another world if you need/want to. But at the same time, being engaging enough to not feel completely boring if you're looking for something like that. And I don't know, I feel like that's something we all need sometimes. But those are my thoughts on Assassin's Creed Shadows. If you made it to the end of this video, I want to thank you so much. This has definitely been the hardest video to date for me, really just in terms of mentally, because I really found it hard to put all my thoughts together for this game. So hopefully I was able to put everything out there in a coherent and most importantly entertaining manner, and I'm hopefully only going to get better from here. But enough about me. Are you going to pick up Assassin's Creed Shadows? Have you played it? If you have, let me know what you thought about it. Was it worth the wait? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm always reading them. And if you like this video, feel free to share, subscribe, and like the video. And yeah, that's gonna do it for me. I'm Russ. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.